Niels, first of all, thank you for coming in here today.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you for having me.
Just tell everybody real briefly, because I'm going to hold your feet to the fire here.
Okay.
Your name and what is it that you specialize in?
Yes. My name is Niels Mierendorff. I am the co-owner of a few companies here locally in Naples. We have a basic tile. That's a tile and marble installation business specializing in shower renovation, shower repair, shower remodeling. We keep it simple, mostly service, residential, clientele only. We stay away from commercial. Then we have Sterling versus Development. Now there we offer more full remodels of bathrooms, but again on a very limited small scale. We also have another entity called Tile Easy that focuses on the facade cladding attachment anchoring system coast to coast, where we are an importer, a distributor for a mechanical fastener, if you may, for cladding materials. And the newest entity that we just launched is for facade substructure, and that is the company Vera Facade Systems.
Very, very impressive. And I want everybody to know Niels Mierendorff, if you can't tell, is Eastern European, German. Sprechen Sie Deutsch?
No, German. I almost said West German because when I was born in Berlin in 1970, it was really, the big distinction was between East and West. So saying West Germany, I was born literally in West Berlin, West Germany in 1970.
And Niels happens to be the very first contractor, other service entity referral-based customer that my shower door had met with in, I believe it was 2003.
Yes.
You were the first kind of tradesman that had come into our showroom.
Yes.
And started a relationship with us, and here we are 22 years later.
Yes. I mean, it's amazing, where has the time gone? And I remember it like it was yesterday. I've always specialized in building showers. To this day, well over 3,000 showers built here in the Naples area, most of them all residential. And there are certain aspects that I just didn't want to get involved in, and that is plumbing, shower door, certain finishes, granite, quartz, whatever it may be, now or at the time. And I worked and referred a company out of Golden Gate, great company, and they didn't just do shower doors and mirrors, they also did windows. And I think back in those days, shower doors, people really never considered that like a luxury item. They were all pretty flimsy and thin and universal, and all of the frames and the gaskets. And, I think we can all remember those type of doors before you showed up on the scene with your beautiful product. And what ended up happening is this company got sold, and the new owner was so terrible at it, and he ran the business into the ground. Literally within a year, he took a good business with a good reputation that was making money, that had a good name locally, and basically crushed it within a year's time. Was out of business. I saw your store. You guys just opened up. I walked in. I think it was your brother here, and maybe you were here. I'm not 100% sure. And I said, hello, my name is Niels. I build showers. That's all I do pretty much. I need a good, reliable shower door contractor. And I think I kind of got the look from everybody, like, who is this guy with this funny accent? And, like you said, many years later, here we are. Thousands of happy clients, that you and I both serve, and really have made a dent locally in that industry.
One thing that stood out for me about your company, even back then, and still to this day, obviously, because you're very progressive, is the way that you waterproof the systems. I had seen showers up north, and then coming down here, you were the first person. I got chills even just thinking about this.
Yeah.
You're the first person that I saw using the Schluter system well before it was commercialized out in the free market. It was more of like what's going on with it? I had just never seen anything like it.
Yes, so there's a background to this. So Schluter, and I got to watch myself because I got so used now. Schluter realized that the way it's pronounced in German, it's the U with the two dots. It's an Ü. It's an umlaut. We got the O, we got the A, we got Ö, A, Ü. These umlauts are very difficult for a native English speaker to pronounce. So it's Schluter, and the Americans call it Schluter, right?
Schluter.
So it's Schluter. And it's a family business. It's their dad is Werner, and then there is the sons Mark and the other son. I can't think of him right now. I just met him recently at the trade show. They were awarded Company of the Year in the tile industry. They were recognized last year in Atlanta. Long story short, when mom and dad, started Naples Tile. The original Naples Tile has nothing to do with the Naples Tile that's out there now. The original Naples Tile, they also brought over some guest workers on guest visas. They were able to come from Germany, about 15, 20, mostly of them single master tile mechanics from Germany. And they basically brought a lot of that knowledge with them. So when we were doing these big high rises in Bay Colony, or if it was Bay Forest or Emerald Green, and it's basically just green board, drywall, mastics, 4-inch tile, a shower pan, a mortar bed, or dry pack, as I call it in the trade, and they would tile it, and the Germans are like, oh my God, this is going to leak, this is going to deteriorate, this needs to be waterproof. So they're the ones that introduced us to the Schluter products, and my father at that point reached out to Schluter and started importing these products in the early 1980s. It got all the way to the point, I remember we're in Bay Colony, we were doing, was it the Carlisle, the Contessa? We got the contract to do the entire building, and that was 88, and I was just done with my apprenticeship, and I was doing supervised work at Naples Tile, and we had weekly job site meetings in the trailer, job site trailer, and with a big, large local builder. I was very young, a little nervous to sit at this table with all of these old-timers. And I remember that the superintendent reached over and said, by the way, what is that German shit you're smearing all over the shower floors? And I looked at the guy, and he just kind of like rubbed me the wrong way. And I said, you know what? That German shit is what's going to keep your showers from leaking. Fast forward to today. If you want to work for this builder, you better be smearing some of that German shit over their showers, because otherwise you ain't going to be working for them, much longer. So that is how it came to Schluter, and Werner, basically the founder of Schluter, they started out with that aluminum or stainless steel edging, the profile, because the European market did not manufacture bullnose. Bullnose was strictly an American thing. So that you got to have a bullnose for, finishing of the edges of the tile, and or mud caps. It goes back to the 50s, 60s, 70s when everything was done in a chicken wire mud job installation. Then it went, I don't know, it went from a good quality method, the mud set method, to the green board. And then it took literally 20 years for the industry to evolve with the help of people like Schluter, who invested millions of dollars in education and trade shows and workshops where they invite you to come for a weekend and get hands-on training. And that really evolved, and they are really amazing in marketing and branding their products. So a lot of their products, in my opinion, are overkill. There are methods that are proven that work. For instance, the way we waterproof our shower is a combination of Schluter products. And now that those patents have expired, because after 20 years, these waterproof membrane or sheet-applied membrane, as they called, that expired. Now everybody has a sheet-applied membrane or a liquid membrane or a profile or an uncoupling membrane. But Schluter has been always on the forefront. And when I go to these trade shows in Europe and I visit Schluter at their booth, I was there in January. The BAU, B-A-U, BAU is the largest building show in the world. And it's spread out over 12 convention halls on the old Munich airport, and it offers everything. It's mind-boggling. I mean, it is absolutely crazy. And there, Schluter has some new products that are not available yet on the U.S. market, like the Schluter Lipotech, which is LED light inserts for their system. They're the ones that also started with the radiant heated flooring and simplified all of that. And again, I saw that 10 years ago already, and it took 10 years literally to get the URL ratings and the approval for the U.S. market, and now it's available here. So they're always on the forefront. They're always innovating and coming up with new products, and really an amazing company. So to circle back, the Germans that came in the early 80s educated us. We introduced the products here. First, it came from Germany. Then Schluter opened up distribution center in Canada, and then I think later New Jersey, and now I'm not sure exactly where they out here in the United States, but it has become a household name. Most people in the industry have finally figured out that you need to waterproof your showers, something we were doing in the 1980s already. And the way I explain it to my clients is, once your shower is waterproof, theoretically, you can turn the water on and you're good. We do not rely on tile or grout to keep the moisture, the water out. So very, very important aspect. And yes, we were the first here in Naples to have introduced the product,
I think it's so important being in the industry because unlike electricity or a lot of other things, if there is no waterproofing, it's not a question if there'll be a problem. It's just a matter of when. And
yes.
Water is not something you'll notice right away. No. You don't realize you have a water problem until it's at its worst possible.
Correct.
So I think it's so important to find somebody like yourself that knows the benefits of proper waterproofing and doing it early. Now, you mentioned your parents coming over in the 80s. Can we just kind of take a step back? What led your parents to even come to this country?
Yes. Excellent question. So for that, we got to go way back, and we got to have to go back to the Cold War era in Germany. And Germany, for most of you that are old enough to remember, was divided into 4 sectors amongst the Allied victor nations. So we had the French, we had the English, we had the Americans, and we had the Russians. So Germany was divided in 4 sectors. And then the capital, Berlin, was divided in 4 sectors. Again, that was patrolled by each nation, their sectors. So I was born in West Berlin, which was patrolled by the Americans. The other sectors were basically then the French and the English, and then the Russian part of the capital. And the capital also located in the eastern sector of the divided Germany. And that was also controlled by the Russians, by the Soviet Union. And to get in and out of Berlin, you would have to transit through East Germany, and you would have to go through border crossings. Your cars would be searched, and documentations, passports, and they wanted to make sure that people that would transit from West Germany to Berlin, but nowhere else, stay on the road, don't deviate, don't take any exits. And also people that lived in East Germany. You see, once the wall went up, or was it 63, they start putting up the wall, keeping the people in, because East Germany was losing all of their intellect all of the scientists, doctors, people that could do great things in the West, in the free West, they were suppressed in the East, were leaving the country, and they were leaving all of their, talents. So the wall went up, and people that lived in East Germany no longer could travel outside the Eastern Bloc. My father, and exactly how and why, I think it was, a combination of there was a lucrative business and also how much he hated communism. Decided to start an organization that would help people escape East Germany. And you were playing with your life. My father started a network where he would recruit drivers, and in the organization, basically the right people that would pay upwards of $50,000 to $100,000 in today's money. Back then, that was quite a bit. That would arrange a meeting point. For instance, a car would pull up at a location. The trunk opens, you climb into the trunk, there's a hiding compartment, and they get back on the highway and take you through the checkpoint where people, been paid off, border guards, and you knew who was on duty that day. And it was a very well thought of network of human smuggling, and there was nothing illegal about it. You were not breaking any laws in West Germany. You were only breaking East German laws, and if you were caught, you could anticipate in spending the rest of your life in an East German prison.
Holy shit.
My father managed to bring out over 1,000 people out of the DDR, East Germany. And my uncle actually got caught. He got caught, and he spent 12 years in an East German prison. And just last year, this prison, now because the reunification and there is no more East Germany, this prison last year is a museum today. They just put up a plaque of my uncle, my dad's brother, on his cell door, that this is where Oliver Mierendorff, was basically kept for 12 years, I think it was, until the German government bought them free. Because for the East German, it was very popular to arrest people that were opposition against the system. And then the East German government would tell the West German government, listen, we got a bunch of people here. They hate it here. They love the Western way of life. And you can buy them, So every year, West Germany would buy these political prisoners. However, my uncle was never put on that list to be purchased because my father was still out there doing it. And every time they heard that my dad brought another person out, another doctor, another lawyer, another scientist, they basically would punish my uncle. They would, lock him up in solitary confinement, or they would chain him to the bars with his hands above his head, in a cage. And so many documentaries were made, of my dad and my uncle, and books were written. And Purchased Freedom is one of the name of the documentaries. Well, everything came to a boiling point in the late 70s, early 80s, when one of the last persons that he brought out, and I remember this feller, he went by the name of Wolfgang, and we have left Berlin because there's been some issues there where the American government in the Western sector asked my parents, that they're causing conflict. We don't want to start World War III here. Your activities, is really aggravating the East German government, and we need you to leave Berlin. So we left Berlin. We moved north of Hamburg. There, there were some, strange things happening. At night there were drive-by shooting in our home, or they would throw bricks through the windows, and my parents didn't feel safe anymore. So we ended up south of Munich. My parents purchased some hotels there, in a resort town near Garmisch. And one of the last people that he brought out, actually, the way my father would do it, these people would come out, they didn't have anything. They didn't have a job, they didn't have a house, they didn't have a car. And part of the process was to get them set up. And he was a cook, so this guy was working in the next town. He was a chef, and Mom and I, we went on a road trip with him to Italy to spend a week, on the beach. And it turned out that this person was actually a spy. And he was planted by the East German government to spy on my mom and dad and their habits and their daily routines. And he was suddenly gone. From one day to the next, he was nowhere to be found. And short on after, it was a weekday, Mom did the daily routine, going to the P.O. box, picking up the mail. It was always a stack of mail in a business, big envelope, small envelope. And there was one large brown-colored, manila envelope that she thought it's kind of strange. And she looked at it and was all wrapped with tape. And she had it in her hand in the car. She started up the car. She was about to open it when she noticed that there's somebody that wanted her parking spot. That's like beeping, beep, 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 lady, are you moving or what, So she put the envelope down, brought it back to the business. They typically opened the mail together. They would, sort it out. Dad would open mail addressed to him, Mom to her. And my father took the envelope, he ripped the tape open, and the tape was basically the fuse to a letter bomb. He noticed that there was an explosive device, and the fuse was activated and made a hissing sound. Maybe a little smoke came out. I'm not quite sure. He threw it up in the air. He turned his back to my mom. He said, "Honey, a bomb." And it exploded and basically blew out all of the windows of the lobby, just devastated the office. Fire department showed up. My dad was buried under a big wall unit. My mother was, hurtled quickly to the local hospital. My father was in really bad shape. He was airlifted to Munich, where they were afraid they had to amputate his hands, his arms. It was that bad, His eyes was extremely damaged, hanging out. The liver was blown to shreds, shred metal everywhere.
Holy shit.
And I was I wasn't home. I was actually, and this is the power, if you're a person of faith and if you've never experienced that power, I was at a friend's house and I felt something was not right. And for some reason, I just had to get home as quickly as I could. Something, that was more powerful than I can ever imagine. You got to go home. I don't know why, but I had to go home. And now I know why. There was, a higher calling to have me go home and then see, all of the police and the fire trucks. And I just wanted, where's my mom? And she's at the hospital, and finally found her at the hospital. And that was sort of, the breaking point that, we're no longer safe in Germany. And Mom and Dad, Mom always wanted to leave in the early years, already in the 70s, always hoped that, politics would improve in Germany. And, but it just didn't happen. And my mom's sister immigrated to the U.S. in the 1950s already. My cousins were born here. So the time came that, Dad did survive. He did recover, came out of the hospital. They sold the hotels. And my parents, have visited Florida in the 60s, late 60s, in the 70s, mainly Florida Keys and the East Coast, and discovered Naples. There was also, I think, somebody that they knew lived here, and Naples was sort of off the beaten track. Wasn't really popular yet, and far away from, the Russians, from the East German government, and they felt that this would be a safe place to start over again. And so it became, after that whole assassination attempt in 81 that in 82 we came over the summer. We stayed here in Bonita, from all places, Citrus Park. I don't know. I'm familiar with Citrus
Yes,
Park.
yes.
And that's a German family, the Trost family, that bought this all back in the 60s, all that land in the 80s, and built that big, mobile home trailer park. And, we stayed there. Parents got a realtor. They started looking at some homes. They had plenty of money available, but they wanted to have a low profile. They ended up buying a house in Naples Park on 95th Avenue, and they figured, this is a good starter home, and to decide, what business they want to get into, what's the next step in their life. And so it came that we made the move in, I would say it was spring of 83, either late 82, 83. The container came, they loaded everything up that they wanted to take with them, and we came over here, and I went to school. I went to school here in Naples, finished off my education. They started the tile business because one of the friends that came along was from all people, an East German that escaped, but not with the help of my dad. He made it on his own, and he was a ceramic oven builder. So in Europe, in the old homes, you find these beautiful central ceramic ovens that people would heat either with wood or coal, and they radiate the heat throughout the house, and they're just amazing. And that artwork, it's a lost craft. And he was a ceramic oven builder. It's a trade all by itself. And he was here in Naples Park at, it's called the Country Club now. Back in the days, that place was called Seminole, like the Indians. And I had no windows. It just had screens, and it was a biker bar, right? Next to the car wash.
I know
there.
right where you're talking about.
So the Seminole, and they would, have a beer there, and a local builder was there here. I think La Grasta or Gardeletta, who at the time was building all these homes in North Naples. And he said, Peter, you're a tile man, would you mind, doing the tile work in my homes that I'm building? And then I guess my father said, hey, let's open up a tile business. And so we went from restaurant, hotels, nightclubs. One of their nightclubs was inside of an old Lockheed had Super Constellation, or the Super Connie. If you know anything about airplane, it was the last transatlantic propeller 4-engine pressurized cabin transatlantic plane before we went into the jet age. So, mom and dad were always, doing incredible things. They were always, my father was definitely a visioneer of, what the next step is, what do people need, and Naples needed, a high-end designer, a tile installation distributor showroom, and that's what they put together, and they launched that in 1984. They opened the doors to Naples Tile.
There's so much to unpack in everything you just said. But
yes.
your parents, aside from being freedom fighters, what
Yes.
an absolute amazing... I never got to meet your parents.
No.
I really wish I had the opportunity to. I'm definitely going to try and... Are those documentaries still around? Can they be found?
Yes. So first of all, I got copies of the
I gotta see one.
German documentary. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a subtitle or something like that. But my dad was asked in the 90s, and he flew over there because my father. What ended up happening? Let's circle back. My father did survive the assassination attempt, and he was very lucky because that day there was a specialist, a limb specialist at the hospital in Munich because his hands were so shredded from the explosion, they were just going to amputate them. And my father was left-handed. So the left hand was really bad. So they figured, well, we can't ask him. Odds are he's right-handed because most people are right-handed. Let's just cut it off. But that specialist said, no, let me have a crack at it. I think we can save something here. And they basically, after many surgeries, they removed the center finger. and moved these together. The thumb, they recreated and pulled it out, and the small finger, because really what you need are these two fingers to be functional with your hand. If you lose your thumb or your pinky, things are much more difficult just working with two fingers. So if you have at least these, you can be capable of writing and working and using a screwdriver or holding a knife or a spoon, right? So these are the two important fingers. And the other ones were basically pulled out, extended. There was a lot of surgery. And so the left hand was
But he didn't have a
reconstructed.
middle finger?
No, the middle finger was gone,
There's a lot of people that say, I know one that works for us, Mr. Bryce. He couldn't function without his middle finger.
Yeah.
That's his best tool.
Oh my God, he would crack up right now. If he's probably sitting here in spirit, he's getting a good laugh of that. The right hand wasn't that bad, after reconstructive surgery and plastic surgery. And then, of course, also, the hearing. It blew out his eardrums, so the rest of his life, hearing aids. And that's why I talk loud, because I had to always speak loud for my father, and also exposed to power tools. And, we didn't wear, eyeglasses and safety gear and gloves, and OSHA. And what is OSHA? Nobody came around back in those days, was still the Wild West. But, for my dad, it was a long road of recovery. And let me tell you, when in 1989, the Soviet Union collapsed, the wall came down. I think for my father, that was a relief that he didn't have to live in fear any longer. And my mother was also very fearful that something like that would happen again, because believe it or not, there's a lot more to the story. For instance, when my father was in the hospital, because it made all of the national news and newspaper, you got these crazy people out there that think, they must be millionaires, and we're going to send them, a ransom note that, we want $1 million and put it in a green Adidas bag and put it at the train station and a lockbox, and glue the key in the phone booth, and or will hijack, will kidnap your children. So I mean, for many months we could only leave the house with police protection, because there were crazy people out there, and threats were coming in that they would want to kidnap the children unless they pay ransom money. So this really happened, and my mother had to take the green Adidas bag, full of newspaper, obviously, and put it in a lockbox at the train station in Munich, and then take the key and glue it under a phone booth telephone. And then when the suspect showed up to retrieve the key, the police rushed in and arrested them. But that is the shit that was going on, and my mother couldn't take it anymore. I think she said, listen, if we don't leave now, I'll divorce you, what have you, I'll take my kids, but I'm not going to live in fear like that. So I think that's what really was the straw that broke the camel's back. And we already had the connections. My parents had the connection, to my aunt and uncle and my cousins that were born here. Both of my parents were fluent in English, because in West Berlin, my mom and dad had a lot of GI friends that were stationed there in the army, and my father would get uniforms, and they would get a U.S. Army Jeep. They dress up as GIs, because as a GI in an American Jeep, you could cross into East Germany without being stopped. And they would smuggle people out. This is one of the reasons, when they had these fake marching orders, and top officials found out and say, hey, listen, we're going to let it slide, but you need to leave the city, So, and then we came here, and that was another process, because, we didn't qualify for refugee status or anything like that. We literally had to go through the legal process, first with business investment visas, temporary stay, basically permission to work, all of that was put under review. We constantly had to fly back to Germany to go to the American consulate. We really, had to be on our best behavior because it was really strict guidelines, to live in this country.
Can I ask you a question? Can you talk about the assimilation that you and your family not only did, but perceived that you needed to do versus kind of what you see talked about and politicized today?
Yes, I think for my mom and dad, it was a no-brainer that if you go to a country outside of your own country, if you want to immigrate to that country, you're going to have to, first of all, learn to speak the language. Read it, write it, speak it, okay? You need to learn about the traditions, the history. You need to respect that way of life. If you can't do that, then, my mom and dad is, always the opinion, then don't go, don't come. Go back, what have you. So the way it was rooted in my family is that education, school. My parents went to night classes at Naples High School. I went to public school here, so I had history and I had, what you would learn born here, going to school. And my parents obviously were not school-age children, so they wanted to be educated on that spectrum as well. And these classes are offered for free. Free. You can completely do this for free. You can learn English, reading, writing, history, and these programs. So my parents, for one, wanted to do this. So after work, twice a week, they would drive down to Naples High School and take these courses and to better themselves and to get integrated. I remember my first Thanksgiving. We don't have Thanksgiving in Germany. It was another builder here who lived in Imperial Golf Estate. Company is still around today. Their son I was in school with, and I've never had a Thanksgiving dinner. It was great. All the holidays, 4th of July, those were always celebrated right from the beginning. Okay, we live here. This is how it's done in America, and this is what we're celebrating. And I'm happy to this day. My kids are born here. This year, the 4th of July parade was canceled, but we went last year. For me, it's so important that my children, understand the meaning behind that celebration and to be proud of the American flag and what it means and what this country has given us, the opportunities to do all of this. And people have given their lives for it, to comprehend that. And I so appreciate it as an immigrant, and my children are firstborn, Americans from, that family name here. And I want to continue that. 4th of July, I put my American flags out. We dress up in the colors. We put the burgers on the grill. We make the 7-layer dip in the pasta salad, you name it. So I'm lucky that I had mom and dad that spoke good English, wanted to integrate right from the beginning and wanted to live the American dream. And that's really what it is, how we ended up here. It is really, the American dream and what this country gives you, the opportunity. Very different than Germany. Here you need to work. We do not in the United States really do well with lazy people, okay? You do much better. If you want to be lazy, go to Germany. They'll give you money for nothing. They'll give you housing for nothing.
Oh, really?
And they'll give it for decades, it's ridiculous. And I come from a hardworking family, and you work hard, and you can have, good opportunities, a good life, keep your nose clean, keep your head up high. And in our first company here at Naples Tire, we had a big sign, So every morning when all the crews came in, when they got their job orders and they pick up material, the big sign was in German and English, because we had a lot of German tile installed. We also had a lot of American tile installed, and said in German, mach es richtig das erste Mal. That means do it right the first time. That was the big message as you walked in, do it right the first time.
Say it again.
Mach es richtig das erste Mal. So do it right the first time.
I like it.
So it was all about, the quality. And it was very difficult because, you bid these jobs where mom and dad, they did a lot of contract work. Typically they take the lowest bidder. And it's very difficult to deliver, a high level of quality when you're financially pressed. And builders just said, nope, it's not required. Local code just calls for this. We go by the TCNA, the Tile Council of North America, that sets our guidelines. And that really has improved in the last decades. But not that long ago, their standards are so low that you couldn't warranty a shower longer than a year. And most of these showers without a waterproofing, the moment you turn on the water, moisture will saturate and seep through the grout, gets into the wallboard, and it's going to take, a couple of years before that shower pan is wet and saturated. There's no pre-slope. There's no gravel. It's a water in, water out system. It can work, for 10 years maybe, but in the meantime, everything around it gets wet and it's wicking, and you get mold and mildew, and it deteriorates from the inside out. And like you said earlier, it's not the question if it's going to leak, it's when it's going to leak, And this is a big part of my business. And, people know us really, I think, ever since, the explosion of the internet, because, God, every year we got the phone book, and, we always had like a half a page, quarter page ad in the phone book. And first we had one phone book, then we had two phone books, then we had three phone books. Then nobody knows what is the right phone book. Everybody got a phone book, and the internet kind of, done away with that. And where, your reputation, your exposure, your website and your reviews. And there again, too, a lot of people, buy reviews, they're fake reviews. But I think if you're a little clever, you can, sort it out and see, what is real, what is fake. And for us, it was always where we really pride ourselves in, residential installation, using the best methods available, running a small crew. And we build a reputation. People know us, typically Naples Showers or NaplesShowerRepair.com on the local level. And to this day, this is just something I love to do. I'm passionate about it, but it's not the bread and butter. The bread and butter is actually the mechanical anchor that we have the sole distribution for all of North America. So that is really the multi-million-dollar business annually, because we sell millions of these stainless steel anchors. And right now, the tariffs are hitting us pretty hard. However, I'm taking one for the team here, so
tell us what the anchor, tell me about the anchoring system briefly.
So the anchoring system.
Where would it be used mostly?
It's mostly used for attachment of various types of cladding material to the exterior of a building. So cladding materials can range from natural stone. If you ever been to a high-rise, a larger city, and you see the exterior of the building is wrapped beautiful in a marble or in a tile or in a fiber cement kind of product. Have you ever heard of James Hardy board? Okay, so our anchor is now an exclusive partner with Hardy board, because Hardy board doesn't just build underlayments for showers as we know Hardy board. That's actually a small sector of their business. They also manufacture cladding materials to the exterior of buildings. So if you think of vinyl siding, okay, kick it up a notch and use a fiber cement product that is color and UV stable, resistant to chemicals, and It's a lightweight, very durable, very strong. And these materials are attached to a subframe that is mounted to the building that will create a gap between the building, the subframe, which gives you a chimney effect. It's an airflow. And the airflow is what insulates your building. And the efficiency of these buildings in general, you get a 30% energy savings. It keeps your building warm in the winter and cool in the summer. So the product that we represent from Germany, it's a patented product, and it is an anchor that is now drilled in the rear of the panel, but it does not go all the way through. The hole is a cylindrical shaped hole that is drilled depending on the thickness of the material, and we can go into material as thin as 7 millimeters. The smallest anchor is 4 millimeters. So for a lot of these new large panel thin porcelain slabs, we have systems because we work directly with the manufacturer, like Atlas Concord, Mirage, Cosentino. That's a Spanish company, and for a lot of the builders out there, they know Cosentino and Graniti Friande. So we work with these panel makers internationally, not just here in the United States, and they use our anchor now to drill a hole in the back of the tile. It's a special hole that creates an undercut. The anchor goes in, the bolt goes in, the anchor will expand, you have an attachment, and now you can hang the panel to the subframe just like a picture. So we just completed our tallest building in North America in New York City. Well, for New York, 55 stories. So University of Arizona, Louis Vuitton, Nike headquarters, the One Museum, Xerox building, Microsoft. So we don't do the installation. We just supply
The fasteners.
the fastener.
So
and the
anybody that
substructure.
sees these facades that you mentioned, whether it's metal, stone, but you don't see any fasteners. There's fasteners, they're on the backside, and more than likely they're coming from you.
That is correct. So there's only 2 products available worldwide that are concealed. That is the key word here, that you don't see any attachment points from the front or any rivets or anything of that, nor are there any adhesives used. There's no epoxies, no glues, no grouts. It's an open joint system, okay? Now, the other company is also a German company by the name of Fischer, and Kyle is what we represent, have been around now for a little over 30 years, and they're estimating about 50,000 buildings worldwide, including the Statue of Christ in Rio de Janeiro, the base panels that the statue is sitting on was also done with the fastening system. But limitations are with glass. Now we can go in crystallized glass, so we can drill into that and use the anchoring system. What we don't do is honeycomb material or any type of sheet metal or metal materials, The key component here is that the anchor spins in the material. It does not exert stress on the material. So if you got extreme cold conditions, and we do have projects in Siberia, for instance, not anymore, because ever since the invasion of the Ukraine, our parent company, Kyle in Germany, stopped all export to Russia. That's basically an embargo. But there are projects that was done prior to that in Siberia with the extreme cold condition. We have project in the United Emirates and Dubai. So there's reps like us, distributors in different parts of the world. Tile Easy is the sole distributor for Canada and the United States. So we handle that entire sector now for 30 years. So again, my dad, got that started because we started a new business where we were bringing new tools and products to the tile market, basically. So that introduced to the American market, and everybody has one today, a multi-tool. So the multi-tool was invented by a company called Fine. Fine is the oldest power tool company in the world, from my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong. And they brought out this oscillating multi-master multi-tool in the early 90s. And I got pictures when we were doing trade shows, because I do so many shows, right, where we were exhibiting the multi-tool. And then back in those days, it went for $800.
Oh, you got to get me a picture of one of these to
I got
put on
that.
your,
Yes, you. And I just found one recently because we had the show again here in April in Orlando, our biggest show in the tile and marble trade. And a friend of mine, Richard, he hasn't been down in 20 years, and I found some good footage because he was there too. This is Miami Beach Convention Center. I estimate it was 1994, and we were showing, the Fine multi-master oscillating multi-tool. We also introduced the first floor layout laser machines. Another system that my dad introduced to the market was everybody uses this clip system on the tile. You've probably seen it too. They lay the tile, they have a clip and a wedge that goes in. So my father introduced the marble plane, which is the same concept, and it had these plungers that you would have to buy, and a tileman unfortunately would have to spend about $800-900 to have a supply of what we call spongers or soldiers to get through a day of work, and they were recyclable. You use them the next day. And $800, that was a lot of money for tile guys to come up with. And that concept, we done quite well on it, but we didn't have the financial power to market it properly and to get really the word out. But somebody else took that concept, that idea, took it to the next level, and it was the Tuscan leveling system. And now today everybody uses a leveling clip. But who was the first one? It was my dad. My dad was the first one with the multi-tool, with the leveling system, with the grout machine, with the floor lasers. You see, circling back to it, my father was at sort of a vision. He had that vision, and he was always 10, 20 years ahead. With the waterproofing, he was 20 years ahead of the curve. People were making fun of us with the waterproofing. I used to have plumbers make me sign a piece of paper because I didn't want them to install a shower pan. Back in the days where we didn't require permitting, I never put a shower pan in. The shower pan doesn't do anything. It doesn't waterproof. It's a big diaper. It contains the water. It doesn't waterproof your shower. It's a misconception. And basically, the waterproofing needs to be done right. Even today, you could have failure. There's a great guy out there, the tile coach. I like to follow him. And he actually is honest, because when he has a failure, he reports on it. He goes, I built this shower, it failed, it leaked, I'm taking it apart again, I'm taking responsibility. Not many people out there that will ever, admit to, they screwed it up. And, what can we learn out of that, okay? And that is so important.
A lot of people see that as, why would I admit to something wrong? But it's actually a superpower. It taking accountability on something, I think, is good for collaboration, and it's not done enough.
Yeah, I agree with you, so, and I don't want to pat myself on the back. The way I looked at it, because when it comes to the showers, I don't take a bigger bite that I can swallow. I'll be honest with you. I have the opportunities had many times again. Oh, can you do the cabinets? Can you do the countertops? Can you do the shower? Can this be a one-stop shop? We want to do more. Can you do the kitchen while you're here? And I said, no. My foot is in the door. And unfortunately, there are so many people, and this town has just so exploded. Keys, I tell you, back in the day, we had a handful of tile companies, and people have come and gone over the decades. Nowadays, you drive down the road, every vehicle around you is a plumber, is an AC contractor, is a builder, is a home remodeler, it's a kitchen guy. It's mind-boggling. Now, mind you, Naples has grown. I mean, there's definitely a demand there. And I have consciously decided not to work with builders. Mom and dad worked for the biggest builder in the day, huge project, hundreds and hundreds of units, money came in, it was good. But the punch-out work, the callbacks, the lack of quality, it wasn't fun work. It was, it's factory conveyor belt work. There is no thrill, no pleasure, no, wow, this is, when you feel good about something, you just didn't get that satisfaction. So I wanted to stay small, specialize. I'm very particular. I don't go to Marco Island. I don't go to Fort Myers. People don't know, yes, we have a GC license, but I really don't do more than the tile. My guys are employees, they're not subcontractors. And part of the reasons I don't like working with builders, because I've been doing this for over 40 years. And sooner or later, that relationship with the builder falls apart. Multitude of reasons. Could be you're too expensive. Could be you're not reliable. Could be a lot of things on your end where you're just not meeting the standard of the builder. The other thing is, if you have a builder and you got a good crew and you work for this builder, they'll end up stealing your guys. They will go behind your back. I've seen it so many times. It happens. Say, hey, listen, why don't you work directly for me? Why work for Niels? I'm building all these homes. And I remember in the housing crisis, 2007, I met these tile guys. He goes, I'm doing 1,000 houses. I'm like, great. Then, the pandemic hit. All of a sudden, they were out in the street, out of work. I never lost what I didn't have because I built in a niche, that clientele residential. So I was just as busy, because if your shower leaks, either, you use your garden hose or something, or you get it fixed. Think about that. So all of these tile guys, I was happy that they were working for these cookie cutter communities, for all these builders out there. And then the housing market, and after the crash, 2007, 2008, somewhere like that, I tell you, there was a complete transformation locally. All of a sudden, people realize, I better have, don't put all my eggs in one basket. I better, expand and doing, kitchen, bathroom, flooring, kind of do a lot of things, work a little bit for builder, but do things. And, then the internet also helped with that exposure. And, I've seen that, but at the end of the day, there is no one locally that has been doing showers as long as I have. And I'm very proud of that. And the way I put my showers together, I tell all my clients, look, I give it to you in writing 20 years. What good is a piece of paper if I'm gone tomorrow? Bottom line is, I'm not aware of having had any failure. And no matter who owns the condo, if that is my work, if there's a problem, I will replace it for free. You can't fix a leaking shower. You got to rip it out, start over again. It's all baloney. No caulking, no grouting, no nothing is going to fix a leak. You got to, and I've never had to do that. I'm very proud of that. Twice, there was a suspicion the shower that we built leaked. And once in the vineyards, I remember, and it turned out it was their drain assembly going between the units, that had given out. And this was a client who, and I always encourage them, that should be changed, the plumber, but you got to sign off if you don't want that change, Again, before we had permit requirements, a long time, you didn't need a permit to build these showers. And we went and we freed it up. Plumber replaced the drain. We corrected it. We never charged the people. They sent me a bouquet of flowers. Then I had another one, Gulf Shore Boulevard. They were cast iron drains. We had cold condition. There was also a crack there. We also took care of it, worked with the people, good people, do a lot of work in the building. They sent me a letter and they go, it's hard to find a company nowadays, they thanked me 1,000 times, that would actually come back at no fault of their own and do this for us, But that is how I like to operate.
In our 20 years, I've never heard any ill words about you or any of your employees at Basic Tile. And because you're so involved from the very beginning, during the process, a lot of these companies that end up getting bigger kind of disassociate themselves from the day-to-day things, when in reality, if your customer is the most important commodity in the transaction, you would think you would want to be forward facing during that. And that's the one thing that I respect about you. You know every customer, you're there in the beginning, during the process, and you even call after the fact.
It is. I don't know. I look at it like, a restaurant, your favorite restaurant, and we all have it, and
What's yours?
You go in. Well, it was just my wife's birthday, and I do have to say I do like True Lux a lot. My wife's like Babas. Babas. I think that is the Middle Eastern Mediterranean restaurant on Fifth.
Is it? Do you like it because of the food or the service? Because
it's the whole package.
I was gonna say back in the day, my favorite restaurant, the food on a scale of 1 to 10 was probably a 7, 7.5. But the service was like a 9.5, and I was willing to tolerate the okay food just because I was treated like a rock star.
It's like in the shower, in the tile business, we have an old saying is, listen, a good grout job can make a bad tile job look good, okay?
Yeah.
And a bad grout job can make a good tile job look bad,
Yes.
And I give you an example. Funny that you said that. So my wife, it was her birthday on Sunday, and we went and had dinner down on Fifth because Grandma gave us a gift card for Christmas, and was time to cash it in. This is a restaurant that we haven't been to in many years. So we had reservations, we got seated, and right from the moment we got seated, it just everything started to feel wrong. The table, it was not a table to have dinner at, number one. It was a round, small table. I thought I'm like at Starbucks or something. 2, the server, not very warm, not very welcoming, not very friendly. Just not really there. With that smile wasn't there. Like, welcome. How are you tonight?
Happy to
Thank
see
you for joining us. It looked like somebody that stressed out. Oh, not another one. Kind of like that. Kind of over it. So we ordered some food, and I'll be honest, we like grilled octopus. It's not for everyone, but my wife has a Lebanese background, and I like Greek food, so grilled octopus. As an appetizer and a couple other appetizers, and it was pathetic, it was puny, it was chewy, it wasn't any good. We had a glass of wine, we had 2 appetizers, and the bill was more than the gift card. It was, I think, and then add the tip, so it was $126. And because we decided not to stay for dinner.
I don't blame you.
Because I'm like, honey, you know what? I said, I don't know. She isn't a very clever waitress. A good waitress, I'd be back. Can I get you another drink? Do you want another cocktail? How was everything? Were you happy with this? Is there anything else I can get you? Can I tell you today's special? Nothing. She was gone. The plates are sitting there. And I'm like, bad service, low quality food. Just because on Fifth Avenue doesn't make you good. You know? And listen, back in the 80s, Fifth Avenue, a friend of mine's parents had a souvenir store, and they would lock up at 5, 6 o'clock, and that was it. Fifth Avenue was dead. There were no restaurants. We had a deli, Summers Deli, and you went there during the day. There was a bakery, actually, and during lunch, people would get, sandwiches. And we had banks and just art galleries and but we had no restaurants. United Telephone was there, that was their main building. So back in the 80s, there was no Fifth Avenue. This all came about. So we said, you know what, we got this other gift card. Let's go back to True Lux. We never are disappointed. You know what you're getting. It's kind of like if you go to Capitol Grill, you know what you're getting. And then there's a couple others. My favorite one most recently is Sales. I don't know if you ever heard. It's a French restaurant. Excellent service is excellent. Food is excellent. Now that we got on the topic, must be lunchtime here.
Yes.
So, but anyway, no, that is kind of like how I like to run my business. If you were to ask me, what is good, I would say showers. showers. And I'm always happy to refer, good companies. I got a couple of names for doing countertops, cabinets, painting, shower door. You're the only one for the shower door, by the way. And because your product, your service is the best, there isn't anybody else that can beat the entire package. You got to look at the whole package. And even you did all the work in my homes. Okay, one of the door needed a little adjustment. It's normal. It happens. One phone call was on the schedule. They showed up with a big smile. They were there for 5 minutes. I probably could have done it myself. And they took care of it. That's the end of it. And that's the way it should be. You got to return the phone calls, can ignore people. I own property, commercial, residential. That's how I spread my money out a little bit. I'm not, really keen on stock market. Brick and mortar is sort of my alley. But I be honest with you, I built several pools and had projects, if it's new roofs or AC system, even water heater. I mean, doors and windows. In one home, I replaced all the doors and windows. I called like 4 or 5 companies because I really didn't know, who is really good. Prices are all over the place. They all got the PGT windows. And there was one guy literally $20,000 more for the same window than the other company. I mean, you couldn't justify that, And some people come, they measure, they never get back to you. No estimate, no proposal, no phone call, nothing. I mean, crazy. I mean, they waste their time. They come out trying to get a return phone call. This is something, just this morning I was at the office. Somebody called me for grout cleaning and sealing. It's not something we offer, but I have a great person that does. And I'm always happy to refer the people that specialize in that category. And I will take my time. You know how much time I spend talking to people where I'm the wrong candidate for them, but yet I can point them in the right direction. You know how much that means to people? Just that you're willing to take the time out of your day.
Yeah.
You're not making any money of them, and they're not stupid. They get that. They know that. But the people that do appreciate it, they'll stop and say, hey, listen, thank you so much for giving us all that information, for taking the time and pointing us in the right direction. And if I ever need somebody that does what you do,
I'm calling you.
Exactly. So right there. So just because, they're not doing that, that doesn't mean they're going to be a future customer, in my opinion. So, and that's how I like to run, my shower business locally, And again, it's the good thing is because it's not my bread and butter necessarily, I am not pressed to have 10 crews and have 20 jobs going. And yes, we sometimes get booked out 6 months in advance because I have a small crew, but people that know us and that have been referred, they're willing to wait. They're willing to wait that it's done. Mach es richtig das erste Mal.
Done right the first time.
Exactly.
If somebody wants something on their shower done right the first time, so they're either remodeling, they currently have a leaking shower, or maybe they put on an addition and they just want the shower tiled and waterproof.
Yes.
How do they go about and do you have a showroom?
Yes, we do have a small showroom here close to you, actually. We're on Collier Center Way, 1045 Collier Center Way, Unit 1. Outside the building was our tile easy, but on the door it says, basic tile, Naples showers. And we like to get a lot of walk-ins, but we encourage people. My staff at the office is more in tune with Tile Easy and the anchoring part of my business, to call us, make an appointment. Let's go over on the phone what it is you're looking to have done. Let's schedule an appointment. I come out. I give you a full presentation. Then, I put you in touch. I work with local distributor. I do not install tile from box stores in my industry, and I do a lot of trade shows. I'm very much involved in that substandard material, so I want to have a first-class material. I give my clients a very generous budget, for materials. And In the shower, most of the money goes to labor, not the materials. So, we can get high quality materials that are calibrated properly in the sizing, in the color. They contact me. I meet up with them. I put them in touch, with the plumber, with you. I carry on me, your brochures and information. I have the knowledge for the types of doors that are probably most functional in their situation, also with the plumber that we work with, and I micromanage everything. I take care of all the scheduling and communication. This is just something that I do to make it a very stress-free experience right from the get-go. So they can find us online at naplesshowerrepair.com or Naples Showers. As a matter of fact, if you Google like shower remodeling Naples, we come up the first search result under all the sponsors. And then even you on the same page, with your shower doors. But I think it's because the content, how long we have been doing it. God, I think my website, the first website I got going maybe 98 or something like this, 99. And, I haven't looked at it in a while, It probably could use some updating. I probably was a few pounds lighter. But, the concept is still the same, honest, high quality, and we're good communicator. If you haven't noticed by now, I'm not shy of words. And there's a lot that goes into a shower. I go out on estimates, and it typically takes me, an hour is pretty average to cover all the angles, and people get really educated, and they tell me later on, after the job is complete, they go, Niels, we had other people out here. They were very vague about the waterproofing. They never got in any details, and we really liked it right from the beginning that when we met you, we knew we had the right guy,
It's obvious. I really appreciate you taking the time to not only share about your business, but the history of your family and coming over here. This was stuff, I've known you for over 20 years. I had no idea. So, and I'm glad that you shared it.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
This country has been great to me, to my family. Now I would give my life for this country. When I was 18, as a matter of fact, I registered with Selected Service because, again, I started out with visas, working myself up to a green card. From the green card, after 10 years citizenship, did the citizenship, got sworn in. I mean, it's the best thing ever. You did it the right way. I did it the right way. It's a process, but it did the right way. I'm very proud of it and proud to be part of this great nation. I mean, it is just amazing. It gives me chills just thinking about it. And, I see things that are going on, like you said, in our current political spectrum. I just can't wrap my mind around it, and comprehend, that people think they're entitled or so. I mean, you're not. You earn this. You come as a guest. You gotta act that, you pick up behind yourself. You keep things clean. You don't cause any trouble. You don't ask for anything. You give back,
Well,
so.
If anybody's looking to have a professional come in and help with their shower, after watching this, you can really tell what type of human being Niels is, and he's a solid guy. And everybody in our family and company highly recommend them. Like I said, we've been working behind them for over 20 years and have yet to see any problems. So we respect you. We appreciate the business that we've done together, and we're hoping for many more generations of your family here to be in the industry.
Keith, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.